Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine. The time to say yes to your dreams and aspirations is here.
Now, what's your take on the way that journalism is currently being practiced in the country?
Journalists are professionals, and the professional journalists are still there. People like you are still inspiring those who want to make a name.
Thank you.
Those who have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. You started right from the bottom, and you've gotten to this point where you are an employer of labor.
That's true.
So there are still a few people who want to come in like that and be professionals. But there are a lot of people who don't want to subject themselves to any kind of tutelage. They don't want to subject themselves to any kind of mentoring. They don't want to go to school to learn journalism. And they just assume that having a nice phone, a nice Android, and being able to type and type correctly means that you're a journalist. No. The fact that you know how to check the blood pressure of your sister or your mom does not make you a doctor. The fact that you know that the maximum number of paracetamol you can take daily is 8 does not make you a pharmacist. So there are a lot of people who are pretending to be journalists who have no training. That's my major worry. And they have no experience, and they don't want to earn the experience. They just hear something and push it out there. That's my major worry about the practice. There are all kinds of other worries for those of us who have been around for a while. But the major worry now is who's going to step into Azuh Arinze's shoes? Who is going to do what you're doing? You know, push out a magazine, go online, do this kind of interviews, and still find time to write a book and still be focused on what they're doing. So who are you going to teach? Who are you going to hold up? That's my worry, the next generation for us. So as we get tired and we don't want to do active journalism, who are we leaving the stage for? That's my worry.
Interesting. Now, what would be your take on the fact? I mean, it's glaring and obvious, that some quacks are currently dominating, or so it seems. They seem to be making more waves than even the professional and serious journalists. How do you feel about that?
There are quacks everywhere. There are pretenders in every profession. We just need to get our people not to patronize what is not original. Because when you say that there are prostitutes on the streets, it's because they have customers. If there are no customers, they won't come out tomorrow.
I like that.
I mean, if a male prostitute or a female prostitute stands by the road all night and nobody picks him or her, is likely to think twice about coming out tomorrow. So the quacks have patrons. they enjoy patronage of certain people. We will continue to have to talk to them. And like I always say, when you say that is what is important, go to where you can find what is the right thing, and then the quacks will fold up. And instead of them proliferating, they are all over the place now because they have patrons. They push out, they just type breaking or just in, and people rush there. And it does not matter whether they had never seen or heard about this site that is telling them something is breaking. And there are all kinds of ways that people are now using clickbaits to get people to go to their site, to get followers, and they're not trained to do the job. It's sad, but we all need to become more discerning.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, who is even a good journalist? I mean, we see too many people who are masquerading, who are claiming or who are laying claim, to being a journalist. Who is even a true journalist?
A true journalist is someone who has passion to be a reporter, to look for news, is someone who writes and speaks English. Very important. Right? That means that we need reporters who will not force them to rewrite. So there are people who are very good reporters. I've worked with a few in the newsroom. They're really very passionate about investigation, but they don't write so well. They make efforts, but a good journalist must be able to express himself or herself, whether on screen, online, or in print. A good journalist is someone himself or herself, because you cannot weather today's storm with a wind-blown umbrella of yesterday. You need to constantly be on top of your game. You need to constantly protect your sources. You need to build sources. A good journalist is someone who continues to, develop your contacts, and you never reveal your source. You never betray trust. You never use something that has been given to you in confidence to blackmail anybody. A good journalist is one that his source can trust. And we are steadily finding people who betray that trust. People who cannot protect their sources. Now, a journalist must be trained. It's very important. It is very, very important that you are trained, because you're going to hone your skills in the newsroom, but you need some kind of training. So those are some of the things that you need to do.
Interesting. Now, talking about writing well, what exactly does it take to write well?
To be able to write well, it depends on whether you are now writing opinion, writing fiction, but good writers are naturals. They are born to write and express themselves well. But like I said, you must, if your platform requires you to speak French, then you must be very vast in the culture and the language associated with French. If you are speaking, if your platform uses Yoruba, you must understand the culture and the language. But largely, our platforms use English. You must write and speak English. It's very important. So nobody looks down on you. So nobody refers to you as that press boy. It's very important that you discharge yourself well in your delivery.
Interesting. So what do you normally look forward to seeing in a good column?
I enjoy columns that are researched, like Dr. Lasisi Olagunju's columns. I enjoy witty writing, like Waziri Adio, like Bolaji in this day of old. I love wit. I like people who can tell you to go to hell in their columns and make you look forward to the trip. You know, that these columnists that when they write, you just lose yourself. You just forget what you're doing. Those are the ones that help you to burn your eyes while you're reading them. If you're cooking, you can't read them. I love wit. I love those who deploy native intelligence. I love those who research what they do. And we have so many. But I worry, like I said, I worry about the next generation of writers.
Interesting. Now, when do you adjudge or consider a story to have been well written?
When it is well delivered in the simplest of languages, when it is balanced, when it has great illustration, when it has voices. I really don't like stories that has a lot of according to reliable sources. I like stories that have voices where I can see quotes. So when a reporter brings a story, even when the reporter can confide his source in his editor, but if it's not in that story, it does not really it doesn't look like the story that like the story has swag. For a story to have swag, it must have voice. So I like stories that have voice. They're balanced and they're well researched, and this language is simple.
Interesting. So for you, when do you consider an interview on put down level?
When it starts on a soft note and it builds to this height where you are able to when the person being interviewed loses himself and relaxes. And like I always say, when you are interviewing a big person, somebody with an intimidating personality, what you must do is start with the small questions, the simplest questions. Ask if the person has ever played football. That means you must do your research. That means that you must know whoever you are interviewing. I like to read an interview and see that the interviewer knows the person, the subject. And so an interview that makes you feel as if by the time you have gone through about 500 to 600 words, the interview begins to make you feel like you know this person. Now that's a great interview.
Interesting. Now, in your entire career, I need you to tell us the most memorable story that you have written.
You are telling me to summarize 1989 to 2015.
Yeah.
That's a little bit tough. But you know, a lot of people didn't know and still don't realize the kind of hard work that went into those soft cell magazines. Those were very, very interesting times.
Yeah.
Yes, the soft cell magazine, we did a lot of investigation and people didn't know. Can I place my finger on any particular story that is forgettable? I've had all kinds of experiences because working in Punch, for instance, meant that I did all kinds of, I was on more than one beat. But I did a lot of investigation with the prime people, and then I enjoyed the impressionistic writings. I enjoyed the production schedules and all the ups and downs. Uh, but writing about the Canberra people was very interesting for a beginner when when I was just starting out. Those were the tribes that didn't believe in wearing clothes. Doing their story was very interesting. I had to do research. I had to move around in those early days. I I think that those were very, very interesting, unforgettable times for me. That was a particular story. I went to investigate um, the village. The village is in Kwara State. I can't quite remember the name of the village now. And after some time, we had to alight from a bus, and then I took a bike, and then eventually I had to cross the river on foot, just to get, and I had to go, right across the river, and I came back that same way. I also remember interviewing this man in Ilorin. He was a Muslim cleric, a powerful one. His house then was behind the sawmill garage in Ilorin. And during the interview, he told me things about how they helped people, gave spiritual help to those who wanted children, those who wanted to make money, and how they were how he helped them summon spirits to help them. And he explained that when you get that kind of spiritual help, the children don't live long, the money doesn't last long, but that they did it anyway. And he will not encourage it, but that those things were reality. He could see the disbelief on my face, obviously. So he said, "You don't believe me?" I said, "Well," he said, "Okay, I'll bring a few of those spirits, and you can see that they actually exist." And within 1 minute, there was smoke from the four corners of the room where we were seated. He just needed to stretch his hand, say a few things, and there was smoke coming from there. I had to beg him that I believed. I didn't need see the spirit. And so those were unforgettable days, and those were prime people days. So people thought that we cooked up those stories, but it meant it had to do with a lot of work. And writing about the Kaduna State governor today, then it was DG of BP. I did some impressionistic writing where you just sit and study your subjects without them granting an interview. So I had 24 hours with El Rufai. I had 24 hours with David Mark. I had 12 hours drive with Governor Uduagan, the former governor of Delta State. Those were very interesting. Very interesting. There are a lot of things that people find strange about Governor El Rufai that I don't find strange. Having spent those 24 hours with him, I was able to understand, attended his meetings. I went to the golf course with Senator David Mark. I drove through a few projects and watched former Governor Uduagan conduct his meetings. So those were also very interesting for me. It's one thing for a governor or a Senate president to tell you what he is doing or what he planned to do. It's another to just sit in one corner and watch them conduct their days. For instance, it was watching those 24 hours, sitting those 24 hours with Senator David Mark, that made me realize that during the day, Nigeria has a bicameral house. In the evenings, it's one house. They are together, and there are no party lines at certain times of the day.
Interesting.
Very interesting days.
Interesting.